Hello everyone, today we'll be talking about MillWizard. MillWizard is a standalone program that allows you to string together basic milling functions and create G-code to produce finished parts. MillWizard is a conversational type software that makes real-time changes to the G-code as you adjust your operations. That makes it perfect for prototyping and creating one-off parts. I am going to show you how these changes are reflected in the toolpath immediately, along with the many other features that make MillWizard great. One thing that is important to note: while MillWizard allows you to export G-code, it is not your traditional CAM program or even a CAM replacement. MillWizard does not import designs and convert them to G-code. What it does do is allow you to choose from any of these functions to create a job file. Now, I want to start by giving you a quick tour of MillWizard. The first and arguably most important stop in that tour is the help contents. Now, this document is your manual, your how-to guide, and your most important reference when using MillWizard. So your help contents can be found on the bottom here using the help button, or using help and help contents from the top menu. Either way, you'll get to the same document. As you can see, the help documents are divided out into sections and subsections, which will help you find the information that you're looking for right away. Now, I am going to cover some of the lesser known or lesser utilized features of MillWizard, but I won't be going into detail on everything it can do. If you have questions about a specific function, this is where you want to look. Now, back to the main screen. This lovely blue field you see here in the middle is where your toolpath is going to be displayed. You can click and drag to change the perspective and view your part from different angles. The arrows here at the bottom show your orientation in regard to your X and Y axes. This white field here on the left is where your operations will appear when we start building a job file. As you add new functions, they're going to be added to the bottom of the list. You can use these arrows here to change the order and send an operation upwards and downwards. They are grayed out right now because we haven't started our job file, but you'll see once we start adding operations, those will be clickable and usable for you. This is the load job button. This comes into play if you want to load up a job you've worked on previously. One cool thing about MillWizard is that it functions in demo mode on as many computers as you'd like. In demo mode, you can't output G-code, but you can save your job files. Then you just move them to the computer with your MillWizard license, make your final edits, and save your G-code using this button here. Moving on to the right side of the screen, you're going to find your operations list. These are divided by function. We have mill, drill, fourth axis, and code control. It isn't a long list, but you'll be surprised just what you can accomplish with these functions. I won't be going into depth on each of the operations in this video, but you can always refer back to the help contacts for more information. No matter which operation you choose, you'll always be prompted to select the material and tool you'll be using for that job, which you'll see soon. Your materials and tools can be saved using the material and tools tables, which you'll find in the configuration menu here. So this is your materials table. It comes pre-fit with some default materials. These can be edited, and you also have the option to add more. Go back to the configuration menu and you'll find your tool table. It looks blank, but MillWizard does come with some standard tools in there for you to choose from. This just allows you to update and input your own tools that you can use later. I do recommend using these tables to keep the tools and materials you use most often saved. That'll save you some time and make building a job file that much easier for you going forward. Before we move on, I want to go over the other options in the configuration menu, the first being your machine max settings. When we open this window, we see the options for max spindle RPM, max feed rate, and max plunge rate. These are all automatically set to 1000, but you're going to want to adjust those to accurately match the max settings of your machine. Now, once you have those set, MillWizard will not let you change the plunge rate, feed rate, or spindle RPM to be over those selected values. You can also change your toolpath colors by using this option. It can let you change your background too. If blue is not your color, that's not a problem. You can change it to make things easier to see for you. Lastly, we have our output settings. This allows you to dictate where your G-code is going to be output automatically. Now, when you save your G-code, you do get to choose where it goes, but this is kind of a shortcut you can use to get it there a little bit easier. You can browse and find your Mach 4 hobby folder, and then select your G-code file if that's where you want it to go. That's where I like mine to go. So you hit select, and you are good to go. Now I want to show you some of these cool features in action. So let's make a bolt circle. Click bolt circle here. The first screen that's going to come up is our material selection. You get to choose from your list. Once you have some of your own materials added in there, those will also show up on the list. Gives you some other options down here. I'm just going to leave those all as their default values for the moment. The next option we have here is to select your tool. These are the default tools that I mentioned to you before. While they weren't populated on the tool table, these are the standards that you can choose from when you first get started. We're going to go with the 1/16 inch mill. As you notice down here, it does give you the option to calculate tool properties, and it also calculates out your feed and speed. Now, these are recommendations that MillWizard calculates out for you, and they include your RPM, your feed rate, and your plunge. Those are not anything that's set in stone. You can definitely adjust those based on your needs and your machine's needs, but these are just a nice calculation that can give you somewhere to start. So this is what comes up for the bolt circle. This screen is going to look a little bit different depending on which operation you choose. I'm going to leave most of these alone. I'm going to leave X and Y as 0. We're going to make 5 holes in a circle diameter of 5, and the starting angle is going to be 36. I'm going to leave my Z depth at 2. I am going to leave my hole diameter at 1. You'll notice even though I'm making a circle, I had to change it to drill so I could adjust the hole diameter. That's just something to keep in mind moving forward. But I am going to make a circle. And as you can see, I am pivoting my Toolpath display so that I can see my part a little bit better. All of those 5 circles are shown here. And I like it, but I want to add a little bit more to it. I'm going to add a recess for my bolt heads. Now, the easiest way to do that is to right-click on my hole circle, hit copy, and then it duplicates that operation. See how it added it on the list here? You can't tell it's duplicated looking at the toolpath because they're just stacked on top of each other, but we're going to change that. I'm going to select my second hole circle and edit it. So I don't want just another hole drilled exactly where I already had them, so I'm going to make some adjustments here. I'm going to change the hole diameter to 2, changing it to drill, changing this to 2, switch it back to pocket, which is the function that I want, and I'm going to change the depth to -0.5. That way it's not the whole length of the circle that's being drilled out a second time. As you can see, as soon as I hit OK, that's updated on my toolpath. So at this point, you can see the basic part that I've created. It's drilling some holes, adding some pockets. Now, what if I forgot and I wanted to use a different tool on the pocket than I did on drilling the holes? In order to do that, you're going to use your tool change button over here and select your tool from your tool table. I'm going to change it to the 1/4 inch mill. I'm not going to adjust anything else. I'm going to trust MillWizard and leave those values alone. And my tool change populates on the bottom of the list. Again, the toolpath shows that change right away. Not a major change. There. Now it shows the toolpath change right away. Important to note here, whenever you're adding something, it adds automatically to the bottom, and you have to move it up to apply it to the function that you want it to be applied to. So tool change applies to all of the operations below it. So if I leave it here, it's only applying to my pocket. If I move it up on the list, I've just changed my tool for my circles and for my pocket. I want to leave it down right there for the time being. Now, if you don't like that tool change, if you've looked at your toolpath and you think, yeah, that doesn't really do what I want it to do, you can always right-click and enable or disable, or just delete it. I'm just going to delete it for the time being. Instead, I'm going to add a tool strategy change. So, tool strategy button is over here under code control. It allows you to adjust your RPMs, your feed rates, your plunge, your SFM, your chip load. I'm just going to change the ramp angle from 5 down to 2 and hit OK. No changes are shown, but that's just because the tool strategy is at the bottom of the list. Moving that up, we can see that it changes the toolpath display to reflect that change that I've made on my pockets. If I move the tool strategy up one further, it would apply to both of my functions, but we don't want to do that. We're just going to leave it on the pocket. One thing to note here is that the tool strategy changes only last through the life of your tool. Now, what that means is if you change your tool, the tool strategy doesn't affect any operations below that tool change. So if you want your tool strategy to apply to a second or third or fourth tool, or if you want to make different strategies for each of the tools that you use, you just add one under your tool change and above the function that you want it to apply to. So if I had another tool change, let's say I was doing a more complicated job and I want to go to a 1/8, and then I wanted another tool strategy to apply, I would have to add another tool strategy below that tool change and change the ramp to, let's say, 1. Now, any functions that I add below that tool change and that tool strategy will follow those rules I've set, but will not follow these rules up here. As you can see, there's a lot of different ways you can customize exactly what your part is going to look like and exactly what your machine is going to do for you. That being said, you might think that the operations listed are a little rigid and don't leave a lot of wiggle room for creativity. What if you could build your part almost to perfection, but it's just missing something? Now, MillWizard gives you the opportunity to input custom G-code as an operation within your job for just that reason. Over here under Code Control, you'll see User G-code. When clicked, it opens a field that allows you to type in or copy and paste G-code. Now, this is already filled with the G-code that I've been playing with all day. You can copy and paste that if you want to, or like I said, you can type in whatever you want to try for code and then edit it as you go. When I hit OK, what this is going to do is it's going to create an operation in my list over here, and it's going to appear in the toolpath. So we'll hit OK, and you'll see right away my circle has appeared right where it's supposed to in the middle of my circles, and the user G-code spot has taken its place on our list. Now I can change the order of the operations for that if I want to by using my arrows to adjust it up or down my list however I see fit. So this job file is looking pretty good, so I'm going to save it. Using the Save Job button, I can choose where I want to save my job file. If you're using your licensed version of MillWizard, you also have the option to generate and save G-code for this job. So I'm going to save my job file, MillWizard demo file, right to my desktop. That way, if I need to, I can bring it back later. So now that I have that saved, I want to show you how to open a job file. This is especially helpful if you're creating job files on one or more computers and then creating your G-code on another. You can use the Load Job button to find your job file on your computer. So Load Job, and it shows up right there under my desktop. The other option is dragging and dropping. So if I minimize my screen out here, I'm going to take this job file that I created earlier and drag it onto my MillWizard screen. It's going to ask if I want to save my job. I already did that, so I'm going to hit no, and you'll see that my text engrave file appears. Now I can pivot it all I want to, zoom in, zoom out, so I can get a better view of it, but I've just loaded that with the drag and drop, which I think is pretty cool. So now that I have my job file loaded, I can continue making edits, adding operations, or I can just save the G-code file and head over to Mach 4 and start cutting. So let's review some of the things we learned about MillWizard in this video. Number 1, help contents is your best buddy when using MillWizard. Maybe not for forever, but definitely in the early stages. Number 2, you can download and run MillWizard in demo mode on as many computers as you'd like and produce job files. Buying a license allows you to turn that job file into a G-code file. Number 3, you can add, edit, disable, and rearrange your operations as many times as you want, and your toolpath will reflect those changes immediately. Number 4, you can also change your tool strategy, and even add G-code to customize your job file to fit your needs. Now that you've heard and seen what MillWizard can do, head over to mocksupport.com to download and try it out.